Alrighty, we are about a little over 2 days out before the game's release, supposedly. We still do not know the actual final release date time. I found this out earlier today. It's hard to plan your life around that, hard to plan your schedules, but the devs have not told us. So if it's anything like the CBT, I believe it'll be in just about 2 days from the release of this video. So you can look for it around there, but I wanted to make a short video talking about what CZN's devs need to get right the first time out the gate. As anybody knows with any game, the first week or so of your game is when most players that are going to give it a quick try, they play it for a couple hours, and if they don't like it, they just drop it because there's so many other options out there. So you need to get these things right out of the gate, and I have some confidence that the devs will hit the mark on some of these, and other ones I'm a little bit skeptical. So the first thing is art style, and I'm going to talk about a couple different points, but the first thing is in a dev commentary video quite a while ago, they put out this little table and made this incredible point that, we're a really high quality 2D art game. We've nailed it. We've mastered it. We're better than other games. And here's this table comparing our art styles, and here's how we do better than recent popular 2D tiles. And this table, it just was made so poorly. It's just not comparing apples to apples. They gave no concrete examples. They didn't even show examples from their own thing. Like, here's one character. Here's all the things we drew for that character, just to show you, like, if they really wanted to communicate, hey, look, we did a lot of art for it. They didn't even go through one concrete example of this. And I get it. Yes, there are 7 card illustrations because every character has at least 7 unique cards, some more than that. And some of those can be animated. That's very cool. And of course, the battle ultimates, there's 2 types of animations. I get it. There were so many other approaches they could have taken it instead of doing this kind of comparison. They could have given an example, hey, pick Rin. Here's all the animations we did for Rin, and some of them are really cool. And players have rightly praised some of their animations. The battle ultimates are really fun to watch. Even characters I don't care for. Even like Luke has a pretty cool battle animation if you haven't seen it before. They did a good job with those. But some of the animations are just like little particle effects. And that rolls into the second thing. They have run into repeated controversy. Now I don't know enough about AI art to understand exactly what is AI driven and what is AI created versus what is AI inspired, and then hand modified afterwards versus what has been hand drawn from the start. I just don't know. I do know that there are people who will apparently look through every single piece of art you put out ever and point out every single inconsistency. And props to these guys. I do not care about this level of detail for art. I just don't. As long as it's mostly consistent, it's good enough for me. But there are players who really, really care about art consistency and really, really care about finding any evidence of AI because they want to point out that something's inconsistent. And I also don't 100% fault the company, because I'm sure at any management level, they are 100% trying to make things faster. They're saying, hey, to the extent that we can, let's use AI to help our workflows, get mockups drawn faster, scrap ideas faster, all of this to make our workflows faster so that we can pump out games faster, because you have to beat other companies at making games well and quickly. And if you aren't using AI at this point, you're probably falling behind. I would love to be corrected by somebody who has more experience in the art field than me. I have very little, but at least in other fields where we use AI, this is 100% the case. Whether or not it actually helps is still up for debate. We'll have to wait 5-10 years to really know for sure. But I'm sure that their managers are trying to make them work faster and involve AI in their workflows in ways that can't be detected, right? Because the best company, the company that makes the most money, is the one that uses AI the most without being found out, right? And so being able to couple your tracks and still make it look like completely human developed art is a skill that maybe not everybody has. I don't know. That's just kind of my stream of consciousness take on it. But it's consistently it's been brought up a couple times at this point. The devs responded once or twice. I don't know for every single detail everybody pointed out 100% how much was AI done. People were saying like, oh, you can redraw these girls using an AI prompt. It's like it's a JK scroll girl. Like, yes, you're probably going to be able to draw it with an AI prompt. Like, that's just reality. But they have that challenge ahead of them. And then lastly, if you haven't been paying attention, so the Chinese server for this game is going to be coming out sometime, maybe later this year or early next year. They just put out applications for a CBT. That they did that a week ago, but they still haven't even accepted applications for that. So they're coming out with something. But more importantly, they are going to do some kind of censorship or modification of the artwork to meet China's standards. So a little bit more clothes on the girls, not as big of features on some of these girls, just a lot of changes throughout. And the art for this came out because it was posted on Bilibili and other places, and a lot of players said, hey, I want that for global, because there are a lot of players, believe it or not, who play this game that do not care for all of the Gunnar bait, right? There's a decent amount of Gunnar bait. This is not the craziest, but there's a decent amount of Gunnar bait in the game, and I get it. They want to maybe make it a little bit more I wouldn't say family friendly or something like that, but something a little bit less like, you know, a little bit less skin on the girls while you're playing the game. I totally get that. So I think it would be really good if they did add some kind of switch that you can download, you know, the art style that you prefer, whether it be the censored one or the not. I think that'd be good for the game. That being said, we didn't know about this during the CBT, so there's no way we could have given feedback, but I hope the devs are at least considering it for it to be available in global. I think that would be a pretty easy win for the player base, especially because there are a lot of players who just want to play a good game and they do not care about the art on the girls all that much. So I think it would help them reach a wider audience if they gave that option to toggle it out. And the next, as far as the story, I do think they have a decent amount of work in some of their articles and interviews that they posted. They talked about how players complained that the story wasn't dark enough because it was a big selling thing for this game was, you know, okay, yes, it's going to be these characters that are kind of humans but also not humans are in this dystopian environment and they have to fight these crazy monsters. It's like that trope's been used a million times already. So how do we make it crazy? Oh, we're going to do something really dark. You know, we're going to have these traumas, these mental outbreaks, and they kind of delivered on some of it, but it definitely wasn't nearly as much as what they claimed it would be in the trailer, and players maybe rightly criticized that. And the devs' response to that was something to the effect of, well, you only saw 3 chapters, you'll see more chapters, it'll go crazy, and you can't show too much in the first few chapters, which I understand, but it does mean their work is kind of cut out for them, because I know there are players who are like, hey, we wanted something really cool, something, you know, pseudo horror, pseudo, you know, something pseudo horror style that we would see later on. Right now, there were no enemies that were like gobbling you up or anything. There was the Cthulhu run monster that would kind of vaporize you if you got defeated by him, but I don't remember any other crazy death animations when we were playing. But also, most of the game wasn't super hard, so I don't remember dying too many times, but they do have their work cut out for them a little bit in that sense. And the other thing is the trauma code stories, which I hope will be a pretty easy win for them. These are the little character-specific story modes. I don't know if there's actual combat involved, but it'll be a way to learn more about specific characters. I am assuming you have to get at least one copy of the character from the gacha, so they did list Haru there in one of their in the dev commentary, and I presume that means you have to get Haru before you get to go through the trauma code story mode, but we'll just have to see. I'm hoping this is an easy win for them on helping players engage with the characters a little bit more, because we just don't know a lot about them aside from some of the animations and stories and little video clips we've gotten from like their Twitter feed and whatnot. So hopefully this is an easy win. And then a little bit closer and dear to my heart is the stress system modifications that they claimed they were doing in the dev commentary. This, I hope, is just a win for the game. I've talked a lot about the stress system and how it can add a ton of variance to the game and make things really exciting. And they have the chance to do that with their description of the modifications they're going to make. They mentioned that, you know, characters are going to have the possibility of having some kind of virtue instead of always going into trauma every time. Or they're going to be doing different types of actions, a little bit more variance than what we have right now, which is when they hit maximum stress, you know they're going to be stressed. You have to pull this many number of cards, and it's kind of static and maybe boring and repetitive after a while. Like, okay, yep, I just need to pull 12 more cards. I hope this is a pretty easy win. There's a lot of ways that this could go through. I talked about them in more detail in my video on stress, and I'm excited to see what they have to put out here, but hopefully it strikes a good balance of offering some new exciting mechanics without being too overly complicated. I know some players, because at the end of the day, we're all gacha players, a lot of players just want to autoplay. They were like, I don't want this whole complicated thing where I have to think about positioning and all that. I just want a simple, you know, thing that I can autoplay, and maybe that would turn them off if this becomes too complicated, but hopefully they strike a nice balance for that. And then lastly, something they 100% have to nail down is their translations and typos issues. This was, I don't want to say beyond embarrassing, because they claimed the purpose of the CBT was server stability, and it did a good job of that if that was the only purpose, but the amount of players it turned off that the typos and translations were just inconsistent on cards. You know, the fact that there were multiple keywords referring to the same thing on the same card, like the same card in the same character's deck would have 2 different keywords, I don't want to say it's inexcusable. It is ridiculous. Like, maybe it looked really, really good in Korean, and then they just had a horrible translator. Like, they just pumped it all into Google Translate or something and just copy pasted what it was and hoped it would be good enough. But they should have done something better for that in the CBT, because that was first impressions for a lot of people and turned off a lot of players, some of whom I know, that were like, I thought this was going to be a semi-serious, you know, gacha card game, and instead we got this pile of crap that just was inconsistent and hard to understand. And even to this day, we still don't know how certain mechanics work, simply because the descriptions were just horrible, right? And we don't even know if there were bugs involved. Like, we know some things, in some cases, it's hard to know if there was a bug or just the tooltip was so wrong that your understanding of the mechanic was just way off. So they 100% have to fix this. I would love to talk more about, you know, hey, I wish they had more languages translated to, like Spanish or Portuguese or French, that would help give them more reach across the globe. But they really just absolutely need to nail this down for English, Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. They need to get these down, or you will lose players who want to take the game seriously, and you will at that point just be stuck into whatever players that are just gotching for the sake of gotching and not really interested in the game mechanics. Because if these are not consistent in a deck building game, you just lose interest. Like you don't know what's going on. You can't figure out how to strategize, how to, people will not want to talk about the meta anymore and stuff like that if these cards don't work well. So hopefully they stick these. They have shown us glimpses of it, but really just not enough for me to be convinced that they did nearly as well as they claim to have done in getting these translations done right. Like, this is something that AI would probably do better than the crap that was given to us in the CBT. So they 100% need to nail that. And that's mostly what I wanted to talk about today. I know there's going to be a million videos coming out from everybody and their mother telling you what characters you should pull for, what your reroll guide should be, probably a couple tier lists coming out there from creators much larger than me, but I really hope they can nail these down. This is what I'll be looking for in terms of, do I play this game for a long time, or did I just kind of waste my time goofing off trying to learn the game's mechanics for a month or two. So I hope they nail it. Honestly, I feel a little underwhelmed with the amount of information we've got in the past week. I understand they don't want to share everything, but we have just gotten like some updated art and some voice actors, which are not things I'm interested in generally. I was hoping we could see some of the fixed kits, at least a couple characters, to see a flavor of what's coming out, but we just don't know. We don't even know the actual release date. We haven't heard even what like a pre-download. So you really have to pay attention to make sure you don't fall behind. You don't want to be like halfway through the day and realize you're 12 hours behind on the actual game release. So just stay tuned. Again, pre-register if you're interested, and I'll catch you in the next one.